Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on pricing for profit. I am your host. My name is Kim Ellis, and I'm the founder of L&D Free Spirits. If you're not sure what that is, head over to ldfreespirits.com. So let's get going. So like I said, this session is the pricing for profit. So what we're going to be talking about is how do you price your services in a way that you actually make a profit and don't end up cutting off your nose to spite your face. So we're going to just kind of start with a bit of a baseline. Before we look at the different pricing models, I'd really like to find out what you currently do. So if you are self-employed or freelancing, how do you price your services? Do you do hourly rate, daily rate, project? Bob it into the chat, or you can use should be able to use your annotation tools to put a smiley face on it, if that thing's working. So all of the above, daily. Let's see which comes out on top. Day and half day rates. Oh, half day rates. Yeah. Mainly daily rate. It looks like daily is kind of getting there. Lucy's hourly and project. Yeah, I personally I charge my clients usually it's day rate, but it could be hourly rate. Sometimes project, so I kind of do a bit of all three. It really depends what the gig is, how long I'm working with them for. If it's just like a single build of something, then I'd charge them on a project. If they want me to do quite a bit, then it might be on a day rate. It kind of depends. Emma's bobbed into chat that she does coaching, so loosely on hourly rate. So there is a variation, but that's not all that we've got. We'll get into the nitty gritty in a little bit. I'd like you to just think about your price. I'm going to take a few moments for this. Think about how much you generally charge. So everybody will have an idea that, okay, if it's an hourly rate or a day rate, I'm going to charge this. What kind of thoughts pop into your head about that? Now, I've got four of my thoughts which pop into my head. What if they say I'm too expensive? What if my price drives somebody away? What if there's scope creep? That's cutting off your nose to spite your face, that you've got the gig, but then you end up doing that little bit extra, or they want to change something and you're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not doing anything else anyway, so I may as well just do it. What if I under or overcharge? So this is where sometimes the imposter can come in. It can be like, well, am I worth this? Should I be charging this much? Should I be charging more? Am I overcharging? Andy's put into chat, don't talk about price, talk about value. Love that. And Joe said, is it enough? Is it too much? Can you justify it? And this is the thing, like as the professionals that we are, we're putting that price there for a reason and we can justify it, but can the client, in their eyes, can they justify it? Maria said balance of freebie versus paying. I have thoughts on freebies. We could probably do another blooming webinar just on the thoughts on freebies, but do you give a little bit to get the potential something back? I know that it's a really strong thing for marketing campaigns to do that. So Marie's put, I hear the value and impact versus price day rate. So this is the thing, and we're going to be talking about that in a couple of minutes. But straight off the bat, I'm going to say to everybody here, you are worth it. Whatever you're charging, and it may not be enough, you are worth it. You are the professional. People are coming to you, clients are coming to you for a reason. You know what you're doing and you do it bloody well. You are worth it. So we're going to leave this hanging on here for a couple of minutes just to let that really sink in. Because just think about it. How many years have you spent honing your craft? Let's get that into chat. I've spent 18 years. I say nearly 20 because it's just easier. So we've got 21, 37, nearly 30, 17. Look at all this experience that you have. You're worth it. Think about as well, it's not just about the amount of experience that you've got, but what are your overheads? So what licenses do you need? I've worked for clients and they wanted me to do some videos in Beyond. So I had to buy a Beyond license. Okay. Then I forgot to cancel it the year after. So I actually had it for a couple of years. But anyway, that was my problem, not theirs. Storyline licenses, Zoom licenses, all of this stuff. How often are you working when you're on holiday? When was the last time you had a holiday? When was the last time you chose a client or chose work over a self-development day? There's all of these things that go into your price and building your package for your clients. You've got all of your experiences, you've got all of your overhead, and ultimately you've got the value that you're going to be bringing to your client. Now there's different things that we're going to talk about with the value when we get into the different pricing models in a couple of minutes. But yeah, just you are worth it. Know your worth and celebrate your worth as well. This is one of the things that we're doing with the Free Spirits podcast, is, asking the self-employed, how much do you actually charge? And I'll talk about that in a moment. But before I get onto that, I just want to tell you a bit of a story, which might hammer things home. And we've got a little bit of a video just to set the scene. It's nice and it's tranquil. So this is a proverb thing that you've probably seen around LinkedIn or whatever, but here we go. A giant ship engine failed. The ship's owners tried one expert after another, but no one could fix it. No one could figure it out. So they brought in an old-timer, a senior mechanic. He'd been fixing ships since he was a young boy, and he carried a large bag of tools with him. And when he arrived, he looked at this engine, went to work, did a bit of umming and ahhing, took his hat off, put it back on, looked at the engine carefully, top to bottom. And the ship's owners were looking at him thinking, okay, he's not doing much. He hasn't even so much as got his spanner out yet. After looking things over, the old man said, or the elderly mechanic, senior mechanic, said, let's call him Brian. So Brian reached into his tool bag, grabbed out the smallest of hammers. Imagine those hammers that you use to break toffee, one of those, smallest of hammers. And he went up to the engine and he gently tapped the engine and whoosh, the engine rose to life. Put his hammer away, shook the hands, thank you very much, send you my invoice next week. Engine's fixed, clients are happy. So a week later, the clients, they received this bill, received this invoice for £10,000. And they were flabbergasted. They were like, what? 10 grand for this? All he did was hit it with an hammer. He hardly did anything. So they wrote back to Brian and said, can you please send us an itemized invoice? That would really help our accounting team. So the old man, Brian, Sent them back this itemized bill, and it says tapping with hammer, £2. Knowing where to tap and how hard, £9,998. Now you've spent your careers knowing where to tap, how hard, and which tool to use. That's what your clients are paying for. And I want you to remember that next time you're talking about price with a client, especially if they are negotiating. You are, channel some Brian. You are the expert. You know what needs to be done and how it needs to be done to get the results that they need. So let's have a look at some pricing models. Okay. This seems like a lot on here. So we're just going to go through them. I recently spoke on a webinar with Align Learn Do about diversification of your skill set and how you can become the unicorn of freelancers. The recording for that is available on their YouTube channel, but you can also find it on the Free Spirits resources page. And in there, I mentioned these pricing models. So I'm just going to go through them just to recap if you haven't seen that. Hourly rate, daily rate, they're like Ron Seal, they do what they say on the tin. You have a set amount per hour or per day, however many hours or days you do, you invoice for that. Done and dusted. Project fee, it's where you're giving a set amount for the project. So let's say, for instance, someone wants you to create a coaching framework and run a coaching workshop for 20 staff. It's going to be a 6-week program, and they want a package for the entire thing. So you think, right, well, how long will that take to build plus delivery and yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's say that'll be 15 grand. Client signs off on it, great. You can ask for a portion up front. I know a lot of people ask for a third or half up front, and to secure your time, and then the remainder on delivery. If you don't do that, then you're putting a lot of trust in with the client that they are going to actually pay you when you're done. When you're getting some money up front, it's like at least you've got a little bit if it all goes a bit pants at the end, which, I mean, it's taken me 5 months to get paid off one client. And I know that there's people who haven't been paid off jobs that they've done. They just have to write it off. So if you're asking for a bit of money up front, it's kind of giving you that little bit. The next one would be the retainer. Now, these are really great when you're building a relationship with your client. So you're basically saying, okay, so now here's your coaching package. Do you want me to come on for a day a month or 2 days a month to offer support to your coaches? So I'm just looking in chat. Yeah, the 6 months as an associate to be. See, this is the thing. People take the piss, if I'm honest. They don't think that we need to actually get paid. So waiting. Okay, so when I'm getting people to do things for me, then as soon as I get the invoice, that is paid within 24 hours, no matter what, because I pay people the way that I want to be paid. But it's just, unfortunately, the bigger the company, the longer they take to pay. I think my dad, who used to be a lorry driver, the firm that he was working for, I think they did something with another very large one that goes up and down and names the trucks, will not name names. And they had I think it was an 18-month payment term or something like that. And it was like, that's not great. That's no good. Yeah, Andy's saying ask for 40% upfront, 30% on first stage delivery. So yeah, if you're putting stages in of your project, then absolutely. I know some of the freelancer sites do that. They can let you put stages in and then you get paid per stage. And that's good. You got to also think about, well, what are your payment terms in that? Because if they've got like a 30-day payment term, you're waiting 30 days for your first payment and then 30 days for your middle bit. And so that all needs discussing with them. What's this? Let's have a look. If we don't get paid, we don't pay you. Mm. I've come across that before as well, Joe. And I'm like, no. Okay, see you, bye. Okay, right, back onto retainers. Sorry, I'm digressing with the chat. Back onto retainers. So they're really, really good if you're doing something, leadership development, soft skills, behavioral, that kind of stuff. Even the digital skills, e-learning, video development, or whatever, where you can say, well, do you want to keep me for a day, a month? And then I can update anything, I can do any maintenance, and it just keeps the money rolling. So retainers are great. One thing to note with retainers, you need to make sure that you're not going to fall within IR35 rules and be a hidden employee. So make sure that it is in your contract that you can choose when you work and that you can substitute somebody else to come in and do the work on your behalf. So make sure that you've got clauses like that in the contract of your retainers, even if you don't substitute people. Just if you've got it in there, then it gets you out of that IR35 side of things. Right, next one is your value pricing. Okay, consider this. Your training solution is going to generate 200 grand for that company in increased sales. Is it completely, and this is going to take you 12 hours of work, let's say, is it completely out of the realms of possibility to ask for 10% of the value that you're going to bring? 20 grand for 12 hours work, that's footballer rates, isn't it? So it's value pricing is really good. Value pricing is great when it's combined with project fees. So you're looking at what is the tangible monetary value that your solution is going to bring, and then looking at what cost, what can you get versus that cost. Then we've got service pricing. It's basically where you segment out your services. So I was doing a gig way back. It was only like my second contract ever, and it was to go on and do storyboarding. And it's low daily rate. I was quite green there, and I thought storyboarding, it's fine. It's, do that standing on my head. And then when I was there, they were like, you can do this as well, can't you? And I was like, yes. You can also do this. Like, yes. And I ended up doing a lot more than just storyboarding. So really, what I could have done would be to do service price and say, well, storyboarding is this rate. If you want me to do this, it's going to be extra, 50 quid a day or 100 quid a day, whatever. If you want me to do this as well, that's another extra bit. Because this is the thing, once we get in somewhere, once we're in a contract, doing a gig or something like that, it's very easy to give parts of ourselves away, to give that extra bit away. And we see it as, well, we're just doing a good job. They're going to remember us, they're going to come back to us. But the question is, are they then taking the mick? They're not paying you what you're worth, because they're paying you for half of yourself, but they're expecting your full self. So just consider that. The next one we have is availability pricing. Now, any ideas what I mean with availability prices? Whack it into chat. Joe, pretty much, yeah. Last minute prices and more. So how quick do they need something? If consider this, right? If you're going to have to change your plans, if you've got other client work that doesn't really have a deadline, so you can kind of push it, then, you know, if you're having to be inconvenienced, if you're having to work evenings, weekends, times that you wouldn't usually have to work, your price goes up. So yeah. And it rush fees. Yes. Put it on a rush. If you go on to, if you're ordering printing and things and you go on to like Vistaprint or whatever, it's like you got, I don't know if Vistaprint do this, but you've got one price for a set delivery date and another price for a quicker date. And it's that kind of thing. Um, there was a gig that had me delivering some virtual training at 10 p.m. till half 11 p.m. And I used to work nights. It's not a problem, but usually 10 p.m. is my bedtime. So I was like, okay. And they asked me how much I wanted. I thought, well, normally if I'm doing it normal days, it'd be this much, but I'm gonna have to stay up past my bedtime. So I added an extra bit on. They didn't even bat an eyelid. So I thought, well, I should have added a bit more on. They just agreed straight away. Okay, and then the last one is bundle pricing. So it's kind of the say similar to service pricing where you can kind of bundle the little bits of what you do to create a bespoke thing for that customer. So let's say for me personally, so I do face-to-face, virtual, video, e-learning. There's another one. So it's basically, I basically do whatever a client needs. Now, if someone wanted me to do face-to-face and video, that'd be one bundle. If they wanted to throw e-learning in there as well, that'd be another bundle. So it is very similar to service, but you're having that conversation up front and saying, these are the different services that we can do. The first ever contract that I took out was to do GDPR training. And they only wanted me for the e-learning side of things. And I was like, you just want me to build e-learning? You're going to have me here for 3 months to build e-learning for GDPR across multinational, different countries and all of that. And I was like, that's not going to have the impact that you want. So let's do a workshop for your engineers and the people that are actually out on site. Let's do infographics and videos for the people who are on the manufacturing floor that don't have access to a computer. They didn't even have company email addresses, so they couldn't do the e-learning anyway. And I was like, well, if you're not going to fly me to Australia, I suppose I'll have to do some virtual, convert the workshop into a virtual as well. So with that, they got me there on a daily rate to do one thing. So really, I was thinking afterwards, should have maybe asked them to increase, my value to them had increased. So do a service price, bundle, that kind of thing. Bundle and service, very, very similar. So the kind of the nitty-gritty question that we've got, so how much should you charge? How much should you put your services out there for? And it's kind of like, you may wonder why the string's on there, but it is kind of like, how long is a piece of string? Should you benchmark yourself around what contracts are out there? So, I mean, if you're doing that based on agency contracts, then you've got to think that the agency is taking their fee as well. So you could be undervaluing yourself, because if you're direct with the client, then let's say 50 quid a day to the recruiter, which don't begrudge them for that, because they get you the client, they're taking financial risk sometimes as well. So you could possibly bump it up there. So you could be underselling yourself if you're benchmarking yourself based on recruiter fees. So should you do similar rates to what other people are charging? Could do. But do you have more experience? Are you better? Can you offer more? Do you get better results? I know that I've worked with people who like they charge quite a lot and I don't charge as much as them, and I think I could do a better job. Or I look at them and think I have no idea how they're doing that and they're not charging as much as I am. So benchmarking myself against my peers wouldn't work for me. Um, so if anybody has a tried and tested way to work out their pricing, feel free to bob it in the chat. So the way that I kind of work it out is how much of my brain do I need to work? Do I need to use to do this gig? I mean, if you're doing a project fee based on value pricing, that's kind of easy because you've got a tangible metric there. So Andy's saying pricing based on complexity and risk. Easy stuff, lower price. Yeah. Basically, if it's grunt work that you can do in your sleep, you can bang it out really, really quickly, then yeah, I'd charge that as lower than if it was something that I really had to research and really had to spend time building or doing a load of stuff to if I had to do client visits, if I was working on site with a client, that would be potentially be more because I'd have my travel costs, which I'd claim back through the business anyway. So while you're just having a think about that, we did a research study a couple of months ago when we're gearing up on the marketing for free spirits, and one of the questions that we asked was how much people are charging, and we did this based on day rate because that's really common across the freelancer side of things. The largest percentage was 20%, and they charge between 301 and 400 per day. Oh yeah, and it also has a rate if he doesn't want the work. Yeah, that goes way up. That's like double if you don't want it, and if they take it, you're laughing. Only 4% charged less than 200, which is great, and 8% charged over 1,000. I want in on some of that 8% stuff. And it just goes to show that usually for instructional designer type day rates, you're looking anywhere between like 250 and 450 if you're benchmarking that against recruiter fees. When I first started, I literally had no clue how much to charge. I didn't know about agencies. I didn't know about day rates. I'd just look at a job and I'd be like, okay, yeah, let's throw a number out there, see if it sticks. I mean, I built an e-learning that took me a couple of days and it was $200. Yeah, that's not great. My first contract gig, that GDPR gig, I was on 350 quid a day, and I nearly fell off my chair because I was like, what, people can earn this much money per day? Because my husband was self-employed and is a builder, or was, and he was charging like 100 quid a day. And I was like, well, he's building houses. Literally, he's building things that are going to be there in 100 years. And what am I doing? And I'm charging 3 times as much, 4 times as much. And I was like, and then that niggle comes in, like, am I too expensive? But 20% between 300 and 400 quid. Okay, so let's have a talk about, so the elephant in the room is what challenges do you face when you're thinking about having that conversation. Think about what kind of feelings do you have? What thoughts do you have about having that conversation? I want you to just bob it into chat for me. So the challenge, thinking on the spot, not having time to feel prepared. Yes, Glynis, this is the thing. If they challenge you, thinking, oh, okay, I'm having to recalculate. Worried you're going to lose the job, won't get paid enough. What's the budget? What can you do to fit it? See, this is a trap sometimes. Now, I did a course a few years ago, and it was a training foundation course. So very good courses, love them. And they were saying, ask what the budget is. And I did that with a client. And I said, for this budget, you will get this. Laid out this plan. It was a test in LMS. And then when I followed up with them a few weeks later, they said that they went with someone cheaper. I was like, if you wanted cheaper, I can do cheaper. You just don't get as many global people to test your LMS. Simples. So feeling confident enough to justify the price. Sticker shock when you state a price. Yeah, I can understand that. If people don't know how much something is supposed to cost, or how much, it's like, I remember when I was working at Sky, and we outsourced a lot of our training content, the e-learning stuff, until I started, because that was my job. And they were paying like a few hundred per user per completion for this money laundering training. And they had 2,000 staff. So it was quite a bit. And I was like, I'll build this. Took me a few weeks, built it. And I was like, I've saved them like 100 and odd grand. And then they made me redundant. So yes, another story there. Let's have a look. Mental arithmetic is not a strong point. So screwing up the numbers. Oh yes, this is the thing. You've got to kind of be able to calculate in your head. So if they say, okay, so well, how about we do a 15% discount and I'll give you this other project as well? You're thinking, crap, what's 15% off whatever I've just given them? If it's work I want to do, not offering to do it for free by accident. Yes, I've done that before. They don't know what they don't know. This is true. Client wants to price in the first few minutes without giving me scope. I tell them that it's currently £1 million, but I can 100% guarantee a much cheaper price after discussion. Love that. Can you imagine if they just said yes, though? And it was just like three e-learning builds. You'd be laughing. Love that. Let's go buy a yacht and then an island. Love that. Okay, so just going to move this on. I have a few questions just on this slide that I was going to put into thing that I'm just going to put into chat. So this was a few that I picked up on. How will I handle it if a client says it's too high and threatens to go elsewhere? Because that could just be some of their negotiation techniques. What strategies can I use to negotiate effectively without compromising too much on price? How can I confidently communicate my value of my work to justify my pricing? So that's selling the value, which is really great if you've got tangible metrics, but a little bit more difficult if you don't have those, well, my training is going to increase your sales by 20%. What do I do if the client requests additional work that isn't included in the original quote? That's where your scoping document is absolute gold. Stick to that, reiterate that, and a nice little thing is if you add in contingencies. So anything outside of scope is chargeable at X amount per hour with a minimum amount of whatever. How can I ensure my pricing structure and terms are clearly understood? Ask her if they got any questions, reiterate. But these are some of the questions that I kind of have. And some of it can be like down to a bit of imposter syndrome going on. You know, what if I'm not good enough? But then, you know, superhero pose, you are worth it, you are good enough. Now let's absolutely boss this meeting or whatever. So yeah, try a superhero pose for a couple of minutes. Okay, main thing is you have to overcome your doubts. Overcome the doubts about how much you're charging, what you're doing. So any doubts about your professional worth, remember, the reason that you're self-employed is because you know what you're doing and you can do it bloody well. So you need to overcome your doubts, but they are natural to have. So quick acronym. We love an acronym in training. Price. So this is very apt. So I will, fair warning, ChatGPT helped me out with the acronym when I told it what I wanted. So fair warning for that. First one, prepare thoroughly. Know your costs, know your value. So when we're talking about what if they're asking me to readjust my pricing on the fly, something like that, you could have your ideal price, but then what's your bottom price? So if there is some negotiations, you can have them written down that this is the lowest that I'll do it for, but that's it. But remember, know your value. They need you to do something. That's why they've come to you. There'll be another gig for you around the corner, you know? Yeah, their work could be great, but there's other people out there that will value your services potentially more than they would. So Joe's got a spreadsheet for different services and day, half day, full day, and then have that open and work some of that into a meeting. That's a really good idea to have. And you can do that if you're doing like the service pricing and the bundle pricing. So what are the different rates for things? What's this, Sam? Wish, want, walk. Love that. I could do something fancy with a slide on that. Best case scenario, your wish. What do you realistically want? And what's the point that you walk? Yeah. Love that. If anybody's going to take something away, take that one. Okay, so the next one, rehearse your pitch. Practice, do it in front of a mirror, record it and listen it back. I know that that's mortifying because nobody likes to listen back to their own voice and see themselves. I hate it when I'm editing things and I'm like, oh, I sound so weird. But rehearse it, build your confidence, practice any questions that you think. I mean, use GPT, saying, I've got this meeting, this scoping meeting. This is the client, this is the demographic, this is the project. Give me some questions that they could potentially ask me and practice going through those. Next one is invest in value. And this is going back to what Andy was saying, focus on the benefits, not the price. The price is just how you're keeping score on things. The real thing is the benefit that you can give them. The real thing is what you are doing for them. And commit to your worth. Stand firm. This is what you deserve. You know how hard you're going to have to work for this gig. You know what goes into it. They don't know what goes into it unless they're in L&D, unless they do this type of thing. They don't know how much research. They don't know how to plan what you need to do. That's why they've come to you. So you are worth it. You are worth this money. So you damn deserve it. And then equip for negotiations. Use Sam's wish, want, walk. Love that. I wish I would have put that in there. So clear minimum options. And it could be that if they won't move on price, then you move on service. So If they want classroom delivery plus virtual delivery to cover the night staff, so it's like basically 24-hour operation type thing, you can say, well, okay, well, I'll do your classroom delivery and I will do daytime virtual. The night staff can have a recording. Is that out of the realms? So adjusting what you'll actually deliver rather than adjusting the price. That could be a possibility. So that is mostly it done. I hope you all feel very empowered to go out there and absolutely own your prices. If anybody's got any questions, bob it in the chat. Do people charge the same for creation as well as delivery? I usually create things and deliver it, but I've always charged less for delivery days. I would charge more for delivery. Because if you think about it, there's a higher risk in delivery. When you've built something, then you know what you meant, or you know what other ways you could have done something. So yeah, I'd say charge more for delivery, because sometimes you have to pivot. You have to do a Ross moment. You have to pivot around, and if you've got a question, you have to be able to think on your feet. And I'd say delivery is more complex than the design side of things. So yes, definitely charge more. Plus, unless it's virtual, you're going to have to travel to the client. So you've got travel costs involved. If it is virtual, you've got whatever software you're using. So absolutely go charge more. I'm just going to jump over to the last slide, and that's just a reminder to check out the other events that we've got happening on the site. But yeah, if you don't have any other questions, thank you so much for attending. Hope you enjoyed it and have gone away empowered.